Some big changes to my playoff predictions this week after a huge weekend this past weekend. Of course, we saw Alabama beat Georgia. We saw Oregon beat Penn State. And so I'm looking at these teams, and you guys know I've had Penn State picked as my national champion since the preseason. I'll go ahead and tell you, I do not have them anymore. Look, I should have listened to all of you. I know there were so many comments. People telling me you just can't trust James Franklin, you can't trust Drew Aller, you can't trust Penn State, and maybe they prove us all wrong. But I'm with all of you guys now. I have given up on Penn State. On paper, I felt like this was the best team coming into this season, and now I don't trust them in big games, and I don't know that they're going to be able to make a run to a national championship. So yeah, they're out. Now you look at the other teams. You know, Texas, I still think, is the most talented roster. If Arch Manning comes around, I think Texas could be a candidate. Ohio State, their defense is really, really good. If their offense kind of picks it up, we could see the Buckeyes back as national champions. Oregon has looked like the best team, I think, so far this year. Miami looks like they're for real. So there are several other candidates for teams that, you know, and I wouldn't count like Georgia out with Kirby Smart, and even Alabama as much better as they've looked since that Florida State game. So yeah, it's kind of tough. I don't think there's a real front runner right now. Let's just get into my predictions, and we'll start with the number 1 seed. So at this point, I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think Ohio State is able to potentially run the table, win the Big Ten championship. So that is my pick. They would then get to play in the Rose Bowl. And then my number 2 seed is actually going to be Georgia. I think Georgia bounces back from this Alabama loss. They've got some of their bigger games at home. I think they will take care of business in those games. And I think they'll win the SEC championship. Number 3 seed is Oregon. I think Oregon potentially goes 11-1, maybe 12-0. And I think the Ducks will play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. They'll lose a close one, but it's still a great seeding there for them at number 3. And then at number 4, I'm going to go Miami. I think Miami probably slips up somewhere. I don't see this team going undefeated, but I think they probably go 11-1, win the ACC championship, and that gets them into the Orange Bowl. All right, number 5 seed. Going to go Alabama. So I think Alabama, they probably lose another game, finish 10-2. And then I think we see Alabama-Georgia in a rematch in the SEC championship. I think Georgia gets it done this time. I know they had their problems beating Alabama, but I think in a rematch, I'm going to go with the Dogs in that game. So Alabama finishes as the number 5 seed. Number 6 seed for me is Texas. And this really, a lot of this is because I've changed my pick on the Oklahoma-Texas game because John Mateer is likely not going to play. So if Texas wins that game, I think they can get to 10-2. Their schedule's not that bad. They got Georgia, you know, that's going to be a tough one. Let's say they lose that game on the road, but who else is going to beat them? If Arch Manning can play decent, I think this team can get to 10-2. Now, if he plays horrible, then maybe we're talking like 8-4. But if he can at least play pretty good football, this Texas team is so talented. I think they can get to 10-2, and we're going to put them at number 6. Okay, how about number 7? We're going to go Texas A&M. So that Texas A&M game could be huge this year. If Texas A&M can win it, I think there's a good chance this team goes to the SEC championship. But I think the game is at Texas, so I would right now probably lean towards Texas in that matchup, and I think that's going to be the difference. That's why we see Texas A&M. I think both those teams go 10-2. Texas A&M finishes behind them because of the head-to-head. And then at number 8, I'm going to go Tennessee. After that win over Mississippi State, you look at the rest of their schedule, I think there's a really good chance they only lose one game. They go 10-2, and they are back in the college football playoff. Thought that Tennessee would take a little bit of a step back this year, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. This is a really good football team, and I think they can get to 10-2 playing Penn State. So Penn State, I think, will also go 10-2, losing to Ohio State. They've already lost to Oregon, and so I still think this is a playoff team. But, you know, in the Indiana win, if they can beat Indiana, that'll be huge. I think Indiana probably goes 10-2. So that will be their big resume boosting win right there. Number 10, Texas Tech. I think this team can get to 11-1. I think they'll win the Big 12 championship. I do think just because of their schedule, they're behind some of these other 10-2 teams out of the SEC and the Big 10. But I've got Texas Tech at number 10, and then at number 11, final at-large spot, I'm going Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame will win out, and I think it's going to be enough. And I think it's going to come down to Notre Dame, Indiana. That's going to be the argument for who gets that final playoff spot. And I think Notre Dame's going to have a little bit of a better resume, and I think the Irish get the 11th spot. And then at number 12, I'm sticking with South Florida. Again, I don't know. This is a tough one to figure out. I think it's probably going to be whoever wins the American. I know Tulane has looked pretty good this year. We've got other teams out of that conference that have a real shot, but I'm going to stick with South Florida. I think they've shown the most potential. Well, them and Tulane both have showed potential to be really good. So that's a tough one. Again, I'm just going to stick with them until I see something that changes my mind. Now, the focus here is really on the 12 teams. The video is to give you my predictions on who's going to make the college football playoff. I will go through and predict the rest of the games, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to put much thought into this. Didn't put much thought into this. Just kind of, again, if these were the actual matchups, I would spend a lot more time and try to make better predictions. But just, a quickly going through and seeing how the playoff could possibly go if this was the bracket. I think Tennessee at home. Again, I don't trust Penn State, especially on the road in a playoff game like this. Going to go with the balls here. Alabama, I think, takes care of business against South Florida. That would be like the third year in a row they would have played. That would be an interesting matchup. But I think Alabama, good enough to get the win. Then we got Texas A&M versus Texas Tech. This should be a great game here. Would love to see that matchup. I'm going to go with Texas A&M. I think the Aggies get the win in that one. Then you got Texas versus Notre Dame. I'm actually going to go with Notre Dame to pull off the upset. Again, until I see Arch Manning play at a really good level, it's hard for me to pick Texas to win a big game like this. So I'm going to go Notre Dame to advance. Then we got Ohio State, Tennessee, a rematch from the playoff game last year. This time it'd be in the Rose Bowl. Tennessee's a good football team, but I think Ohio State's too much, especially with their defense. Then you got Alabama versus Miami in the Orange Bowl. This would be a great matchup. I really think this one could go either way. I'm going to go with Miami, though, playing there in Florida. So going with Miami in that game. Then you got Georgia, Texas A&M. Just to shake things up a little bit, I think Texas A&M is a really good football team, and I'm going to say that they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So we get an upset there. Then you got Notre Dame versus Oregon. This, I think, would be a great matchup. I think Notre Dame is an elite team still. I know they lost 2 games, but these were 2 really good teams, and they were, one-score games. But I think Oregon has, again, been the most consistent, best overall team this year. And I think the early loss in the playoff last year is going to fuel them, give them motivation, and they will be really locked in, really focused. I think Oregon wins this game. Then you get Ohio State, Miami. This will be a really fun matchup. I really don't, this is a tough one. I think Ohio State's defense is legit. I mean, this is probably the best defense in the country. Miami, this is a good team, though. I think they're balanced, both sides of the ball. I really had a hard time with this. I think Miami has, again, been a little bit more of a complete team, so I'm going to go with them as of now. Again, this would possibly change once we get to this point. And then Oregon, I think they beat Texas A&M in a good one as well. So I think we see some great playoff matchups if this is how it plays out. Then you've got Oregon, Miami, and again, I'm going to go with a team that I feel like has looked like the best team so far this season, and that's Oregon. It's just, again, I think Miami's looked really good as well, but Oregon has looked a little bit better, and their roster is loaded with talent. So I'm changing my pick to Oregon. That is more based off of, again, they've almost earned this prediction because of the way they played this year. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through all those matchups, but they have definitely earned their way to this respect. And I think right now Oregon might be the team to beat in all of college football. So give me your thoughts on this and give me your playoff predictions down in the comments below.